What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. I am Mona. So, in today's video, we are going to look at a clip from a local Texas uh, station where they cover a story about the inclement weather that they have been having. I know this entire country has been underneath a cold and winter advisory. Story is going to talk about a woman who made some choices that unfortunately did not end well for her and her children. So I want you guys to just listen up to this story and we're going to talk about it. And thank you guys for being here and tuning in.
This warming center in Acres Homes this afternoon. It's one of dozens spread throughout Harris County tonight, giving shelter to those who couldn't find a warm place to sleep.
Get somewhere safe and warm for the night until I'm able to figure out at least how to get home.
Kiara Jones came to Houston from Tallahassee at the start of the new year, chasing after a dream.
This is like one of the biggest populations of the social media influencers. That's kind of my goal, to become a big influencer.
She'd been staying at a motel this month with her
3 little munchkins. I love them. They're so sweet.
But by Monday, she says she'd run out of money.
It just became too much for me after a while.
With temperatures dropping and no place to go, she says she called 911. Police brought her and her kids here. Now, the fire chief says that he expects to hear lots of flooding calls tomorrow. He's saying that once the water in those burst pipes starts to thaw, it's going to wreak havoc on some of those homeowners. Back to you.
Great to see a safety net for the vulnerable. Matt Doherty, thank you for the update tonight.
There's a lot to unpack regarding this story, but I wanted to just touch on a few things that came to mind. So we have a mother of 3 young children. As you heard in the story, she left from her hometown of Tallahassee, Florida, and moved to Houston, Texas. Not sure what type of situation, employment, housing that she gave up to quote unquote chase her dreams of becoming a content creator. But I wanted to just go over a few things that came to mind as I was listening to this story. One of the things that came to mind was obviously what happened to a well thought out planning. Now, typically for any of us, especially if you are parents, we would want to do our best to consider all of the things that could go right, but also all of the things that could go wrong. And when I'm listening to this story, I hear this woman saying she ran out of money and so on and so forth. To me, that is a stark indication that you did not have things planned out and you did not think far enough down the road with respect to this dream and decision. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a dream, okay, wanting to do something that you may have always wanted to do. But I think that there were too many other things that she had to consider. Also, one of the things that I thought about initially is, where are these children's father or fathers? We don't know if they all had the same father or not. But if you want to go chase your dream as a grown up, as an adult, that is your business. But to drag your 3 children when there is a change in weather across this country, okay, and you didn't have enough money, you didn't have a stable plan in place, housing was questionable, this would have been an opportune time for you to send those children with their father, whether you were in agreement with their father, whether it was even what you would consider to be the ideal situation. There was nothing wrong with them being with their father. And I'm just making an assumption that the father is even still around in some capacity. And definitely, again, what you do as an adult is your business. But when you are, for any of us, when we want to leave one job and go to the next, we wouldn't necessarily just quit. Even if you don't have any children, you're going to have something lined up before you just make that move, unless you do have some significant savings in place, your housing is intact, you have made some arrangements, you have thought and put things in place and line things up where you would be covered, okay, to make things work. All right, so that's just my initial thought. And then to kind of piggyback to that is, there is absolutely nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because on average, when you are looking at statistics with respect to the creator economy, it usually takes individuals, especially if they are working, and even if they're not working, at least a few years. If they're really grinding this thing out, they're really, really putting together good quality content, it's going to take you some time to really be able to sustain yourself. And that also will depend on what your expenses might look like, you know, all the responsibilities that you have, whether it's just yourself or if you have a family. So it does take time in order for you to really replace that income. If you're looking to do this full time, you will not just do this overnight. And I'm not sure exactly what content creation that she wanted to pursue, where she felt as though she had to just completely up and leave one state that she was familiar with, where I'm assuming she had family, maybe some support, to come way to another state. And even if she didn't have any family, you don't necessarily have to uproot your entire family, to each his own. But you definitely can adopt the mindset of, let me do what I can do here and make things work. And again, like I stated before, if you are an adult and you can do what you want to do, you can move freely. But when you have children, it's not just about you. You really need to take in consideration how you're leaving that one job to just do something that's poorly planned out, how that's going to significantly impact your children. All right. And so there's plenty of people all across this country who are making, decent income as a content creator, but also understand that it did not happen for them overnight. It is going to require you to put in the time, the effort, to do a constant assessment to determine what you can do to improve your content over time before you can successfully do this, generating income to live off of. I think we are living in this social media fantasy world where we're looking at people and we're thinking that, oh, look at so and so, they just start, all you see is the quote unquote the good life that they're living, this soft girl era, this aesthetic. But we don't understand that that took time. And also, how do we know that these people are not pump faking? Because the internet is not always a real place. I need us to understand that. Just because you see people in these nice aesthetically set up places and they're vlogging about their life and what they do in their day, that does not mean that they are, quote unquote, financially independent and they're doing well financially. A lot of people will have to work full-time jobs, especially in the beginning of their journey. And there is nothing wrong with that. Work your 9 to 5 and then do the content creation after hours, whenever it is best for you. Okay. So that's just my other point about that. And then lastly, I want to talk about some of the data and statistics with respect to, the cost to Black women. Okay. I've covered this before and I will continue to cover this, but Black women who are single mothers are more likely to live in poverty. 31% of homes are headed by Black single mothers versus 39% of homes consisting of a married couple, a mother, father, as well as their children. As you being a woman with small children, you are more susceptible to being evicted. Black women in this country have some of the highest rates of eviction. Look it up. The median income for a Black woman is $44,000 in this country. So lump into that having 2 or 3, 4 or 5 extra mouths to feed. Your financial situation is not looking good. So again, we're going back to that thoughtful planning, thinking twice about the decisions that you are making. Again, there's nothing wrong with you, quote unquote, chasing your dreams, but think about the potential costs to your children and the negative impact that it could have on your children before you just decide that, this looks good. I think this sounds good. I'm looking at it from the perspective of the person who is holding the phone and you don't know all the details with respect to everything that that person is or isn't doing. A lot of people make content And they're not always in best situations. They're just not. A lot of people are living very shaky lives. And also, let me say this too. Do what you got to do. But even if you were back in your home city and you weren't in the best situation, I would argue that you probably could have been a little more successful there, where you probably had access to family and you were probably already working a job. Okay. And let me get back to the eviction rate. Okay, so while the eviction filing rate for families with children was 10.4%, the rate for families without children was less than half of that, 5%. So you are less likely to become evicted if it's just you as a single person. But the people who are most at risk for eviction are Black renters. They make up less than a fifth of renters across the country, but accounted for more than half of evictions. And then the significant part of that number are Black women and also children. In my real life, I deal with a lot of individuals who are being set out on the streets. And majority of the time, they are single mothers with multiple children who are unemployed or they're barely scraping by with even one job. All right. So, again, do what you want to do, but consider the impact on your children. So, my final thoughts about this entire situation is a few things. Women, be selective about the men you are giving your body to, because I think that, when I'm looking at that video of this woman and she is sitting here in this shelter with her children, and things happen in life. I'll say that. But to see this woman in this shelter with her young children, and they probably didn't have to be there because you wanted to chase a dream instead of just writing down the process, what that would look like, doing your research, means that you were being selfish, in my opinion. And also, when you are not thinking about who you're opening your legs up to and the men that you are choosing to engage with sexually, and those men do not have plans for you, you're also setting your children up for failure because they are not going to have their father in the home with them more than likely. And I'm speaking about the men who do not want children. They said, hey, I don't want a relationship. And maybe they didn't say a whole lot of anything. You just opened up your legs to them, and that was that. So I think that that is a big problem right there. Also, I want to say this too. It is perfectly fine to work, to go to school, but also having a solid relationship and marriage. You can do both. We can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I do think there's value in women having some type of skill set, whether it's a natural gift that you have and you want to go on to a trade program. Maybe you want to go to culinary arts school. Or maybe you want to go learn something else that could be very valuable to not just you, but to your entire family, especially if you want to get married and maybe you're in a relationship and your husband might say, hey, I don't want you to work for a little bit. Or even if you do decide to work, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think that there's something about women, um, you believing that it's okay to, you know, not apply your best skills, to have multiple children with multiple men or even with one man, and you don't have a plan in place. And that's a part of that plan, because if you're going to voluntarily open up your legs to a man who has no plan for you, then you should also be responsible in ensuring that you have some type of skill set, some type of employment, income in place to care for those children. And also, parents, let's stop making rushed moves without thinking about and exploring all of the benefits as well as the risks. We want to only think about the probability of something, right? We only think about the possibility, I should say, versus the probability of something happening. Can you be a content creator? Absolutely. But everyone who is behind a microphone or making videos will not be able to successfully replace their income. That may not be a thing for you. So I think that there's some value in understanding what your options are. But most importantly, the best option that you can start off with is ensuring that you give your children the best foundation, and that's by being particular and vetting out the best that you can, along with some male support, men who want to be present and involved in the lives of their children, vetting out a man that wants to be with you first and foremost, and you all working together to ensure that your children are taken care of. So that way they're not living in the shelters, living on the streets when it is the coldest time of the year right now. And there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's not enough resources for everyone who's in need. So, what do you all think? Let me know down in the comment section about this whole situation of this woman chasing her dreams, relocating her and her 3 young children to another state with poor planning, in my opinion. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Hopefully, she does turn things around and she gets back home, as she stated towards the end of the video, and she can definitely, kind of think about, well, not kind of, but think about her actions, how that impacted her children, and take some accountability and make some better and more positive choices. And maybe she will have that, content creator, you know, hustle that she wants to have. And maybe she can take this moment that she had and maybe use that to show people everything that she did wrong and what she can do differently. So maybe other young ladies or other women who are going through similar situations or thinking about doing something and they don't have a plan and they got several young children in tow, and they can think twice before they just make rush decisions and with poor planning. So I thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next video. If you've enjoyed my commentary, please leave a like, consider subscribing to my channel, and until the next video, peace.
Not on my watch. Not on my watch.